Hello, everybody, and welcome to Creating and Using Google Forms, Docs, and Slides, G Suite for Education. As we wait for it to get started, we're just going to give everybody a few seconds here to go to the tinyurl.com / the video ended. Why? It just shut down on you guys. I don't know. This is too dangerous. Sorry, something happened. Can I go back to the? How's that going to affect the upload of the video?
I think it'll be okay as long as you go to the original scheduled video.
You're about to join Hangout on air. Why is it making me do this? Something's wrong because I logged into the NMDELT. This one, it changes my login.
So are you logged in as webinars or as yourself?
No,
that's the problem.
It was, I can't do my email. Maybe you can. So, Helen, I'm okay here. Let me go back to this one and see if it lets me do it now. Why does it want me to do that?
You can hear us?
Oh, I'm so sorry, everybody. I didn't realize we were still broadcasting here. There seems to be a problem with the video. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can get the login to work itself out on the right account. So please bear with me.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get us started since it seems you guys are able to hear me and see the presentation. So welcome to Creating and Using Google Forms, Docs, and Slides, G Suite for Education. My name is Cash Clifton, and I'll be your presenter. This was originally scheduled to be presented by Kristen Waring, but she unfortunately is unable to join us today. So positive thoughts with Kristen. I hope everything is going well with you today, Kristen. So let's go ahead and get started. So why add technology? There's a lot of reasons to use technology in the classroom. You can make your students active learners. You can differentiate the instruction more and just get them more involved with that self-directed learning. You can make learning much more fun through technology. You can have some nice graphics, have nice animations. You can also give immediate feedback to your student, which is one piece that my students particularly like. You can encourage individual growth. You can get them to collaborate with peers. And it's preparing them for the real world. Our world is increasingly online and virtual, and I think that's only going to continue more so as time progresses. You can access information that is up to date. There's no more dealing with a textbook that was published 5 years ago and maybe out of date now. You can get them the most current information. And there's some research that indicates it tends to create more engaged students and more successful teachers. So lots and lots of reasons to add technology. So I realize our title refers to some very specific things within Google in terms of forms and docs and the like, but these all fall under the larger umbrella of what's called G Suite for Education. So there's a lot of things that are free through Google. There's a lot of software you can get that all you need is a Gmail account. Gmail accounts are free. Anybody can create one. You get access to things like Docs and Sheets. But there's a deeper level of Google software that is called G Suite for Education, and you only get access to this deeper level if you're associated with an education domain, and nmdelt.org is considered a G Suite for Education domain. So by having a nmdelt account, you are going to be able to access all of these things that I'm talking about today for free. So what is G Suite for Education? Well, they identify what are called core services. So our first core service is Google Classroom. That is a learning management system. We have Gmail, which is email. Drive, that is a cloud-based storage. Think of it sort of like my documents on a Windows computer, except it is stored in the cloud, so you can access it anywhere from any device. Nice thing about Google Drive is by saving things to Google Drive, I have access to all of my files, whether I'm on my computer, whether I'm on my cell phone, or if I have to borrow my mother's tablet for a minute, you can access your information from anywhere. Google Calendar, that's a great tool to teach students organizations, teach them to input deadlines, set reminders for deadlines, just getting their life very, very organized. Google Vault, that's a more secure file storage system. I'm not aware of any applications that are particularly useful for our purposes. Google Docs, that is going to be a free version of Microsoft Word. So this is a word processing software, functionally very, very similar to Docs. Google Sheets is going to be very similar to Microsoft Excel. Google Slides is similar to Microsoft PowerPoint. That is what I'm using for my presentation today is Google Slides. Google Sites is a place where you can create a free website for your classroom. And Hangouts. We are using Hangouts on Air to broadcast the conference today. You can use Hangouts for video chatting. You can use it for text chatting. There's a lot you can do with Hangouts. And one thing in particular we are focusing on in this webinar is Google Forms. It is not considered a core service of G Suite for Education, but your G Suite for Education nmdelt.org account is going to contain access to forms. So let's jump in and get started. So I'm going to get out of my presentation here for a minute, and I want to start out by showing you Google Forms. Now, if you went to the tiny URL at the start of this presentation to register, you came to this nice screen right here, and this is actually through Google Forms. So this is an example of what Google Forms will look like to the person who is actually filling out the form. Into Google Forms, I'm going to open a new tab over here, and there's a couple of different ways you can navigate within Google. So you have this little Google Apps button right here. You can click on that and you can see some of your more commonly used things within Google here. So there you can see there's a link to Calendar, there's Gmail, there's your Drive, and so on. You come down here and click More, and that's going to give you access to more options. Here's where I can see YouTube. By the way, YouTube is a part of Google Maps, and down here at the bottom is Google Forms. Now, as far as what you see when you click on the Google apps, the things that came up under mine may not be what come up under yours. This is going to be populated based on what you use most frequently. There are so many Google apps. My understanding is there are now thousands of them. So you can come down here and click on even more from Google to see that. So if I'm going to open Forms, I can either click on the Forms button here through my apps menu, or I can come up here into the URL and just type in forms.google.com. This is a pretty standard way of navigating Google. So for example, if you wanted to go to Google Docs, it would be docs.google.com. If you're going to Google Slides, it's going to be slides.google.com. So I'm going to forms.google.com, and I'm going to hit enter so it will go ahead and open for me. It takes you to this nice page right here. So up here at the top, I can click on this little plus button. That'll give me a blank form just to work with some Scratch. And you also have some templates here. You can scroll around the template gallery, sort of get some of these more fun looking things here. Now down here are recent forms, and if you're new to Google Forms, this area is going to be blank for you. I use Google Forms for lots and lots of things. So as you can see here, my form screen here is pretty heavily populated with all of the forms that I've created. So for our purposes today, I'm just going to go in and create a blank form. So I click on the plus, and we come to this nice menu right here. Now, if you're used to using Microsoft products, if you're used to using Apple products, one thing that's going to be different here is there is no save button. So if you're in Google Forms, if you're in Google Docs, if you're in Google Slides, you're not looking for that file save button. You're not looking for the control save button. It's just automatically saved to your drive. So as I've created this form over in my Google Drive, there is a destination that is labeled as the untitled form. Now, I don't want to leave this as the untitled form, so to change the name of this, I'm just going to come up here and click where you see untitled form. I click on that, it highlights it, and now I can rename this form whatever I want to be. So I am going to call this test form virtual conference 2017. I hit enter, and now the name is changed. And look right here where it says saving, all changes saved in Drive. So now in my Google Drive, I have this file called test form virtual conference 2017. Notice here at the top of my form, it also automatically changed the name for me. So lots and lots of things that you can do with Google Form. You can put in some add-ons here. So I click on this, and what comes up for me are Choice Eliminator 2 and GMath for Forms. Choice Eliminator 2, think of it sort of like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? If you're familiar with that show where they have the lifeline to say eliminate 2 questions, you can set that up for your students if you like. GMath for Forms, that's where you can get some of the symbols. You can do superscripts, you can do subscripts, those kinds of things if you are working specific to math. There's also other add-ons that you can get for forms. Those just happen to be the 2 that I have installed on my device. Here you can click the color palette, and you notice this defaulted to some nice shades of purple. I can change it here. Maybe I want to go more this terracotta color, and you can see that my form changes right there. You also have this little icon right here where maybe you want to use a photo. So I come down here, there's all of these pre-loaded photos that I can put in the background there. Maybe I want the birthday cake for my background there, and it loads my theme. Notice you can also do an individual picture. So there again, I'm going to click on the little image icon here, and I can upload photos. That would be if I have something physically saved in my computer that I want to upload to go down there, or I can go into your albums pictures to your Google Drive. So if I had something saved in my Google Drive, I would go to your albums right there. I will caution you, if you're going to use a picture, it needs to be something long and skinny. If you use something that's more of a square, it's going to display kind of bizarrely up here. So just be aware of that. Preview, this is if I want to see what my form looks like. So I come over here and I can see this is what people would be able to view if they're coming to do this form. I haven't really done anything with it, so it's still pretty basic. Up here, we have settings. I can select here if I want to automatically collect email addresses. So then automatically when somebody submits, it's going to populate a column that shows what email address they were using. One thing right here, you can restrict to NMDELT users. That's going to be set to default to that. And so your students will only be able to access the form if they're actively logged in under an NMDELT email address. If I uncheck that, then anybody from the web is going to be able to access that form. Here I can limit it to 1 response. That's sort of to block people from sending multiple responses through the form. You can give response the ability to edit after they submit. You can also give them the ability to see a summary. So once they submit the form, if this is checked, then they can see what other people have been selecting and that kind of thing. I come over here to presentation. If I show the progress bar, that's going to create a bar across the top when the person does the form. This is okay, you're 25% of the way through the form or whatever that is. Here you can shuffle the question order. if you're going to use this for sort of a test, that can be a particularly nice to use. And then you can show the link to submit another response. So at the end, if this is selected, they would have the option to respond to the form again if they want. And down here, you can put a nice little custom confirmation message. It's going to default to your response has been recorded, but this might be where I put, thank you for submitting your answers. You will be contacted shortly, or whatever you might want that to say. Over here, we can make this a quiz if we like, and that is if you want the student to be a score right away. So this can be a great tool for that immediate feedback for your students. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that and cancel that to come back down here to my form. So here again is the title, and this is going to mirror what I did up here in choosing a name for this. So I now in my Google Drive have a file called Test Form Virtual Conference 2017. Down here is if you want a description. So this is for demonstration purposes, I can put in there. I come down here and notice when I mouse over, I have these little dots appear. This is where I can create my first question. So I click in there, and this is the untitled question. So notice I have this little drop-down menu over here. I select this, and I can choose what kind of question I want here. Do I want a short answer? Do I want a paragraph, check boxes, or so on and so forth? So for example, my first question, maybe I want to know what the person's name is. So I'm going to change this to short answer, and I'm going to say, what is your name? And then that's going to give the person a space to put in their name. So notice down here, when I hover over this little icon, this is where I can duplicate the question if I choose to. A little trash can here if I just want to do away with the question. Notice over here I have this required piece. If I click that to the right, it's green now, and this is where the person must answer this question. So if you have that turned off, they have the ability to skip questions. Something like the name of the person doing the form, I typically want to make that required, and we can go down here and change how this is displayed. So right there, I've created my first question within the form. Now I come over here if I want to add another question. So I'm going to go add another question. So I may say, well, I don't know, what color is the sky? And I will go down here and I can give them different multiple choice options. So right here, I might say the sky is pink. I may come down here and say the sky is blue. I may come down here and say the sky is orange. It's New Mexico. We know how colorful our skies can be, so I probably need an all of the above option here. So I can continue on down here. I can have as many choices as I want to, and I may choose to make this a required question. So right there, I'm going to go in and make this a required question. Now notice when I hover over this, I have these little dots that pop up there. My mouse changes into a pointer. This is where I can click and drag things to reorder the questions if I choose to. Notice as I mouse up, there are little options to have pictures. So this might be if I want to link in some sort of photo. Maybe I want to link in a screen capture. Maybe I want to link them to another website or something in my drive. So lots and lots of things that we can do from within there. Here I can add a title or a description to the question if I choose to. I can add an image to the overall question. If I do that, then the image is going to appear up here, as opposed to if I come down here for images, then it's going to appear with the individual response. Here I can link in a video if I choose to, and then I can add a section if I want to. So I click on that, and notice down here we have section 2 of 2. So by going that adds, so by putting in adds section, what you're doing is you're creating a separate page. So up here, when I put in the question of what is your name and what color is the sky, those would appear on the same page. After the person answered those, then they have the button to continue on to the next page. And this right down here is going to start with the next page. Now, right here where it says continue on to next section, this has a couple of cool features. So I have this downward facing arrow here, and I click on this, and I can have them continue on to the next section. I can have them go into section 2. I can have them submit the form here. So there's a lot that I can do on here. So for example, you might want to have the person go on to section 3 or section 4 if you want to have them be able to skip different portions. You can also have them submit the form based on that. So here again, I have another section. I can name it whatever I want to, give a description if I want to, and then I can go in here and I can add questions. And so you can really make this as long as you really want it to be. So create the form. You're able to preview it. I'm going to come up here and click our little preview button again, and I can see what the form looks like. So you see here, maybe what is your name? I'm going to say my name is Cash. What color is the sky? We see all of the above colors here in the state. I hit submit, and then it takes me on to say that my response has been recorded. Keep in mind that I have this set up back here so that they submit the form after that section. If I wanted them to go on to page 2, I'd want to come over here and say either continue on to the next section or go to section 2 if I want them to be able to continue. And notice up here under responses, it now says that I have one single response. So I come up here, I go to responses, and I may want to see the response by group. So here I can see 100% of respondents said that the sky is all of the above. This is nice because you get sort of the analytics for your overall class. So you can see, okay, question 1, most people got right. Question 2, most people missed, and go from there. I can also see individual responses if I want. So if I click there, I can see individual responses. I only see my response, but if I came down here and there were other responses, that would be populated. You can also open this in a spreadsheet format. So you see right here, and you see this button to create spreadsheet. So I'm going to go here. Let me go back. I did that a little fast. So I come there to create spreadsheet. I click the button, and I can either create a new spreadsheet. Notice it is defaulting to give the spreadsheet the exact same name as my form. It's just going to put in parentheses responses after that, or I could select to integrate it into an existing spreadsheet if I want to. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new spreadsheet. I press create, and it's automatically linking me to my spreadsheet. And so what it's doing is it's going to give a timestamp to show when I submitted. If you're doing sort of deadlines with your class, that can be really nice. And here you can see my answers. As more people fill this out, it's going to fill in the rows below there. So that's where you can see your responses. And the way to access this, I can either go to sheets.com, and it's going to populate down here with my most recent spreadsheet. So I can click there to open it through another way. I can also go into my Google Drive. So I'm going to come over here and create a new tab. I can either in the URL bar type in the drive.google.com, or come down here to Drive, and I can see every single thing that is in my Drive. Now, I use Drive for everything. I think I have thousands and thousands of files in my Drive, and I used to drive myself absolutely crazy trying to organize everything and trying to have nice, neat systems for, okay, well, this goes in this folder, and this goes in this subfolder within this folder, and that can get really complicated. I went to a NROC workshop recently, and they suggested don't even worry about that. Just save everything to your Drive and then use the search function to look for that. So if I'm looking for what I think I called it my test form, I type it in, and right there I can see my test form virtual responses. So notice the little icons here. Notice we have this little bit of green here that tells me that's going to be a spreadsheet. I come down here and I see this little blue thing here that tells me that's going to be in Google Docs. That's very similar to Microsoft Word. I come down here and I see the little purple icon, and that tells me that's going to take me to the original form. So that's sort of how you can navigate these things and get around in there. So that's kind of an overview of Google Forms. It's very it's very much just a blank sheet of paper. You can make it into whatever you want to. Feel free to contact me if you are interested in learning more about that. So I want to look at some of these other course services offered within the G Suite for Education app. So I'm going to look at Google Classroom very briefly. Google Classroom, I'm just barely going to touch on. If you want to know more about Google Classroom, I did a webinar about a year ago specific to Google Classroom. You can go into YouTube under Adult Webinars and find the Google Classroom webinar. So this is the learning management system. This is where I can go to just organize everything for my students. So we see in here, Google tends to have little menus in the upper left-hand corner. They call this a hamburger menu. I guess it's because the three little bars look vaguely like a hamburger. You can always click on that and it will show you more options. Down here, you can see all the classes I have that currently exist. I can see the name of it. I can see how many students are in there. And notice this little drive link. There's a Google Drive folder created for every single class. That's how you sort of organize your files. If I wanted to get into, for example, test class, I would just hover over the name, click on there, and it would take me in. I'm going to come up here to this little button though, and I'm going to create or join a class. So I click on that. I want to join a class, I need a class code. And so that's generated automatically when you create your class. So I'm not going to go through that way. I'm going to come here and I'm going to say that I want to create a class. I'm going to title my class. So this is test class for 2017 virtual conference. I might want to fill in a section and a subject. I'm going to leave that blank for now. And we are going to go in and create my class. So this is your stream within the class. This is where you can post assignments. This is where you can post expectations. This is where you can post resources. Here again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we do have a full webinar already out there specific to Google Classroom. Here I can see my students. Remember when I went to join a class, it asked for a class code. This is where the class code is automatically generated, and you can give that out to your students if you want to have them work within there. I can also invite students myself. I can just go in through the contacts. But keep in mind, the students can only access Google Classroom through an nmdelt.org account. So if they have a Gmail, if they have some sort of Outlook account, the students are not going to be able to access Google Classroom. Let me just show you really quick how you get those accounts. So this is nmdelt.org. This is the nmdelt website, and this link right here, you click on, it takes the students to, guess what? It's a Google form to request their account, and then the NMDELT team will create that for you. You can also request accounts for yourself as a teacher through there. So I'm going to go ahead and leave off of there. So let's see, I come over here to the About menu, a little bit of information here. This is where I might want to go back in and put in my description, and you can do that from there. I can also invite other teachers. So let's say, for example, I want my supervisor to be able to see my class. Let's say I have somebody I'm co-teaching with. Maybe you want to join a couple of classes together. You can do that through here. So again, that's just a quick overview of Google Classroom. So I'm here in a new tab again, and I want to look at some of these other G Suite features. So I'm going to come down here to my Apps button again, and we're going to take a quick look at Google Docs. Very similar to Microsoft Word. So as you notice, this is the same basic interface we saw for forms. Up here, I can create a new blank document. Here, I can get into some of the templates, and it is populating my more frequently used items down here. I'm just going to go in and I'm going to create a blank Google document. Like I said earlier, don't stress about trying to find the save button. It's going to save for you automatically. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to title my document. I'll call this test document for the 2017 virtual conference. I click out of there and notice up here that it is saving. And so all changes were saved in Drive. So I now have a document in my Drive under this name. You'll notice the interface is very, very similar to Microsoft Word. It's really wonderful. Pretty much all of the functionality of Word you can imagine here. I like to introduce my students to this as opposed to Microsoft Word because this is going to be something free that they're going to have access to forever. You may teach your students how to use Microsoft Word at the center you're working at, but 5 years down the road, they may not have access to that software. They will have access to it, to Google Docs going forward. So that's just Microsoft. That's just very similar there again to Microsoft Office. So I'm going to open another new tab here. I'm going to show you very briefly Google Sheets. Here again, same basic interface we saw with forms and docs. I'm going to go in and create a Google Sheet, and you'll see this is very, very similar to the Microsoft Excel product. You can go in here, you can create formulas. You can pretty well do anything that you can do there within Microsoft Excel. Coming here to a new tab once again, Google Slides. This is going to be very similar to Microsoft PowerPoint. So I come down here and click on it, and it is your same basic interface. Once again, I create a blank slides. You can put in animations, you can put in transitions, you can put in videos. Once again, if you can do it with PowerPoint, you're going to be able to do it through Google Slides. Same as the other items that I was sharing with you. As I title this, it's going to create a file within Google Docs that I have everything there nice and easy to organize. And as you can see, there's just so much more you can do within here. So I'm going to flip through my my presentation here relatively quickly. There we go. So there's our Google core services, and there's just so much available in here. The way I learned about the G Suite apps is I just got in there and played around with it. I think a lot of times that's just the best way to learn the technology. If you get in there, you get stuck, feel free to shoot me an email. Feel free to shoot an email to any member of the NMDELT team. So this is a nice diagram here. You can see a digital workflow, and you can kind of see how these things interact with each other. Google Drive, Google Classroom, and Google Sites, they're all very much integrated. So you can take a look at that in a little bit more detail there if you'd like. Keep in mind this presentation is recorded. You'll have access to our slides after the fact. So you are welcome to look at this in more detail and ask me questions if you feel like you want to. Again, Google Classroom is a free learning management system, but it's not free to just anybody. You're going to have to go through your nmdelt.org account to be able to get access to this free system. It's nice because this is really a way to save paper. I don't know about you, but as a student, I amassed a very large stack of notes, of handouts from when I was in college. This is just a nice way to have it digital, save some trees, not take up so much space. In my case, on a shelf in my garage. You can post announcements to your students here. You can collect RSVPs if you're having some sort of event. You can use the question tool within Google Classroom to create discussion boards for your students. And keep in mind there's a lot of options for discussion boards. There's blogs, there's podcasts, there's all kinds of free tools. I consider an advantage of Google Classroom that you just have an added layer of security in terms of FERPA. I think it's keeping you a little safer as the teacher. I also think it is safeguarding your program a little bit more. And you can use Google Classroom for students to turn in their work, for you to provide feedback for them. So there's a lot you can do within Google Classroom here. Kristen put together this wonderful graphic for us, and these are just 20 things that you can do with Google Classroom. Once again, so much. You really can just make it whatever you want it to be. Gmail, this is just good old-fashioned email. Your nmdelt.org email is going to go through Gmail. You can set it up on your phone through the free Gmail app in the Play Store. You can also access it through the browser. I do recommend Google Chrome browser, whether you're working on a computer, whether you're working on a tablet, or whether you're working on a cell phone. These Google products tend to communicate the best and respond the quickest through the Google Chrome browser. Although they do function within any browser, I do want to encourage people, though, to particularly stay away from the Microsoft browser. If you're using Microsoft Internet Explorer, if you're using Microsoft Edge with Windows 10, you're not necessarily going to find that these things work quite as well. So you get free email with your Google account. If you go through the NMDelt email, you get tons and tons of storage. Probably more than you could ever use. Last time I checked, I think I have about 6,000 photographs stored in my drive, and I still am barely chipping away at the storage that I have. You will have more storage through our domain than you would if you just have a regular Gmail account. And so once again, go to our website if you need access to these things. Google Drive, like I said, that is like that's my documents. You can really organize this however you want to. You can upload lessons through Drive. There are some share features within Drive where you can share a file with the students. So that's another way you can give assignments to them, and that's going to go to their email if you share items with students. You can do lots of great feedback. If you're not familiar with it, there's a wonderful add-on called Flubberoo, and you can use Flubberoo to instantaneously grade assignments and give students feedback in real time. So lots and lots of things available. Google Calendar, I absolutely love. I'm not sure how I would function without Google Calendar. And I tend to show my Google Calendar to my students and say, okay, look, I'm juggling a lot of balls up in the air, as they are as well. And this is just a really nice way to organize it. So calendar.google.com, or you can access it through the apps. This is free with any Google account, including an NMDelt account. It works on any kind of device. Just if you're using a tablet or a mobile device, you're going to have to download some sort of Google Calendar app through the App Store. If you have an Android system, Android is a Google operating system, and so these things are automatically going to be installed on your device if you're working within Android. You can color code your calendars. That's absolutely wonderful for me. So my job at UNM, I put all of that in good old cherry red. Things I'm doing for Delt, I put in purple, and so that's just a nice visual way to kind of keep things separate for me. You can schedule group meetings, so maybe you put your class meet times on a calendar and you invite all of your students to those times. That way they're going to get little reminders and possibly help them to show up more frequently. You can add attachments to Google Calendar if you'd like. You can set up a world clock. You can put meeting locations in there, and then you just have this nice central space for all that information. I tend to tell my students set up reminders for 48 to 72 hours in advance. If they have a big assignment coming due, I suggest them they have an hour or a 2-hour reminder for class. And then you can have the shared calendars. NMDelt has a shared calendar available through our website where you can see all of our events that are coming up. Google websites, Google Sites. This is where you can create a website for your classroom. You can have some control over who views your web page. You can also just make a web page that's out there for everybody. I understand it can be kind of nice to have a lead page, a start here so that students know where to go. You can embed a Google Calendar within your website. You can post a syllabus. I mean, you really can make it whatever you want it to be. Google Hangouts. used to include Google Hangouts on Air. It's now YouTube Live. That's what we're using for our presentation today. So Google Hangouts, you can use it like a messenger service. You can use it sort of like a text messaging tool. The NM Delt team, we have a lot of fun with emojis and stickers. You can draw little pictures for each other. You can send files. You can have lots of conversations going on. So for example, in my Hangouts, I have the conversation that includes the whole Delt team, and then I have little individual conversations happening with every one of my team members. And it's nice because it enables some features to go through and search. For example, if I have a conversation, if I can't remember, did I have this conversation with Faith? Did I have it with Terry? I can go in and I can search within Google Hangouts and find out what's going on there. Hangouts on Air, which is now called YouTube Live. That's where, for example, we're broadcasting this conference. It's also being recorded though, and this is these sessions are automatically going to be posted to YouTube as soon as they're over, so that can be really nice. You can also call landlines through Google Hangouts, which is really, really great. You can potentially save quite a bit of money on long distance if you're having to call people in foreign countries. So that is worth checking out if you are interested. These are our Google apps that are very, very similar to Microsoft. I think I've already spoken to those points. These are a few Google apps that I just personally like. Gmath for forms and docs, Easy Accents, Doc2Form, Pixton, and EasyBib. EasyBib is really great if you're trying to create citations. So I want to start wrapping up our presentation to allow us time for questions. So my name is Cash Clifton. My email is on there. Kristen Waring was originally scheduled to present this. She's very, very knowledgeable about G Suite for education. So feel free to contact either one of us or really any Delt team member if you'd like to look at this stuff more in depth. So Montse and Faith, do we have any questions from the chat?
We do. The first thing I'm going to ask was, is there a way to indicate a correct answer on the Google Forms? For instance, does it actually do automatic grading? I know that you can see the feedback and you showed the Google Forms in that way.
So there's a couple of ways to do automated feedback. You can set it up to go to a section based on the answer. So if you've ever done Plato on demand, I have it set up so I have the first question. If you get it correct, you go to this page for the correct answer. If you get it wrong, then you go to this page for the correct answer. That's one way of doing it. I'll warn you, it's very time consuming to set up, and it can be a little challenging to get everything linked. What I think is a better tool is Flubberoo. So the short answer to can Forms grade for you? No, Forms cannot, but there's an add-on that can. And so what you do is you go into your Google Sheet. So you go to sheets.google.com. So let me get that to open up here. Let me go into the test form that I have here. And what you can do is up here under the add-ons button, you can get the Flubberoo add-on, and then Flubberoo is what can automatically grade and give that instantaneous feedback. So I click there to enable the Flubberoo notification, and then it's automatically going to give you instructions. It's pretty involved in terms of the instructions, so I'll leave that to you to go over on your own. If you'd like to set up an individual session, I'd also be happy to meet with you and look at that individually with people. All right, Faith, other
Great,
questions?
thank you. Yes, it was couched in sort of a joke, but as far as with the Google Classrooms, you were asked if you could remove permissions from the Google Classroom. So the joke was couched in if you don't want the directors to see what you're doing in your classroom,
Sure.
or the boss. But more importantly, is there a way once you add someone, can you actually remove their permissions?
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me go back into classroom. .google.com here. Let me find one where I have multiple people working. So let's see. So I come into this one and notice this is the Plato review for certified users. And you can see all of the different names up here. And these are all of the NM Delt team members are here as my teachers. And so they currently can see every single thing. Notice as I scroll down here, you can see the pictures on the left here. So I'm going to pick on Faith just because she's here in the room with me. I just come up here, I click on this little box, I can remove her from the class. It's as simple as clicking that, and then Faith can no longer see my class. You can do the same thing with students too. I've gotten into a couple of scenarios before where students weren't respecting the netiquette policies in things like discussions. And so, yeah, you can absolutely remove anybody that you choose to. Other questions?
Yes, the last question I saw, and there might be more, I'll ask Montse, can the Outlook calendar be uploaded or synced with the Google Calendar?
That is a great question, because that is a source of great frustration for me right now. So yes, they can be synced through Exchange. So if you want to do that, you're going to have to use Exchange. I say that sort of hesitantly. I've always been a lover of Samsung devices. So when I had my Samsung Galaxy S6, I had my Outlook calendar and my Google Calendar synced through Exchange. I recently got a free upgrade offer to the new state-of-the-art Pixel phone, and my Pixel phone is not able to link the two. So from what I'm seeing, the official answer is yes, you can through Exchange, although I'm learning it varies by device. Other questions that we might have, Faith?
There was a comment, I'm not quite sure if this is a question, but perhaps you know this app, so you could speak to it. The comment says, EasyBib requires an account to make more than one citation at a time. So I'm not sure if there was a question around that, or if you can speak to that comment.
Yeah, my understanding is if you want to do the citation one little piece at a time, you don't need an account. I believe the account is free though, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I've taught a class that uses that, but I believe they can just create a free account through EasyBib, and that's certainly not the only place to do that. If EasyBib is starting to charge or something like that, I suggest checking out Purdue OWL is another great resource there. Do we have any other questions or comments?
Last question I see now, it says, how do I keep students from accessing an archived class?
How do you keep students from accessing an archived class? Let's see. Let me go back to my classes. I believe once you archive it, they are automatically locked out of the class, although I have not actually archived a class before with students in it. So I suggest, I'm sorry, what was that? You have to delete the student? Okay, so Montse said delete the students from the class is how you do that. Thank you, Montse. Okay, I do want to point out some weirdness that happens on Google Hangouts. Sometimes you see this little cascading screen effect. I'm not sure why that happens, but when you are broadcasting your screen and you put Hangouts up there, that just happens. It's not really a cause for concern. It's just some unique art, I suppose is what it is. So don't be concerned if you see that. Faith, do we have any other questions?
No, I think we're good. Thank you so much, Cass. Thank you for everybody who's participated. Please stay with us on the first annual NM Delt virtual conference. We have presentations going until 4 p.m. today, and we appreciate everybody being here.